Hey, and welcome back to the Business of Healthcare podcast. I hope you guys are doing well. So for this episode, I want to direct this at healthcare leaders that may potentially want or trying to work out whether they need some outside help from a consultant. When I say consultant, that might be an accountant, it might be a facilitator, it might be a coach, it might be a CQC advisor. It's just anybody that's got that deep, specific experience that doesn't currently reside in your team. So here are a list of questions for you to reflect on and for you to consider. Are you consistently missing your targets? Are you consistently having the same conversations? You're going to the board meetings, it's the same items on the agenda. They're important enough to keep discussing it, but you can't seem to find a way through. You may not have the capacity to be able to implement it, or you still may not be clear on the strategy that you want to adopt. Do you have an issue with staffing and morale and potential burnout on underutilization or problems with trying to retain your staff? Are you clear on the vision and values of your organization? Do you know where you're going? And do you know where you've been? Do you understand your strengths, weaknesses, the opportunities and threats to your organization? Are you clear on the strategic objectives? Do you have a business plan? Is there a lack of decision making? Are there ongoing issues related to patient safety or governance? Are you going through a restructure or considering a restructure? Is there a lack of trust, a lack of commitment, potential fear of conflict, lack of accountability, or inattention to results? And that little framework comes from the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, written by a consultant called Patrick Lencioni. Be a lot more issues I could have raised, but hopefully that list of questions will spark some ideas which may warrant investing in some outside help for a fixed period of time to support you. And this is an investment, and I really want to emphasize the word investment. It's an investment in time and it is an investment in money. And the reason I want to emphasize that is that your issues will likely be complex, and there's no silver bullet. It's not like you go to a consultant or you get some outside help and bam, they fix it straight away. You receive those dividends over time. So it is an investment. No one wants to engage in something that when you think it's going to cost you time or just cost you lots of money. I also want to emphasize that it's a partnership. And for you to get the results that you are looking for, your consultant, the expert, cannot do it independently. They can't come in, wave their magic wand and leave. It requires that executive leadership function to really engage, get on board, support, direct, and make sure everybody that needs to be aware is aware of the why and the next stage and the next steps forward. It's so important. So if you think the questions posed resonated, if you can say yes to a few of those, and you understand that it's an investment and it's not a cost, and you also understand that it requires your input and the input of your executive leadership team or your leadership and management team, whatever you call yourselves. I think I'm not suggesting from that list 100% go out and look to hire somebody. The next kind of set of questions I want you to consider is, are you collectively ready and committed to investing the time and resources to improve the situation? And sometimes you're not, and that's okay. It's just about being really honest. You understand it's an investment, but I'm not ready to do that right now. Or there may not be the budget. But if there are deep issues and you feel like there isn't the budget, then the question is, what is the cost of doing nothing? What is the cost of everything remaining the same? Answer those questions and then go back to the first question is, okay, can we look at this differently? Is this now time to be ready and committed to trying to make a change? The third question I want you to consider is, what could things look like if they were different? If the situation improves, what would be the impact? Write that down, think it through. And then the next question is, do you truly think that this can be resolved internally? Or would you value some outside help? So there's lots of questions here, and I will leave them in the show notes for you, okay? So are you collectively ready? And when I say collectively, it needs to be more than just you, unless you are looking for a one-to-one coach, I would say. But I'm talking to teams and not individual people here. So are you collectively ready and committed to investing the time and resources to improve the situation? What would be the implication of doing nothing? What could things look like if the situation improved? Can this be resolved internally, or would you value some outside help? Now, if the answer leads you to wanting some outside help, the next question is who, or who might this person or who might this team be? And the potential consultants listen to this. This is very important. They will likely ask a colleague or a friend, we're facing this issue, who would you recommend? This is where the referral comes in. The people that get referred are usually known for a specific reason. Their expertise is really clear. They've got fantastic testimonials. They deliver. They are known, liked and trusted by the person making the referral. Else, they may be looking for somebody that doesn't have any sort of personal relationships with anybody before, or you might want somebody known to the business. So again, that is for you to decide. Do you want somebody completely that you've never met before, or do you want somebody that has got a bit of background into your situation? If they can't get the referral, then the natural next step is to look externally, and they will likely Google you, and they will likely try to search for somebody with that expertise, and they will be very specific in that search. So to my consultants listening to this, you need to be specific. It's really helpful to be specific. It's really helpful to have a niche. It's really helpful to say, my name is Tara and I support the leadership and management of primary care networks. We provide interim management, training, consultancy and facilitation. We've worked with over 120 primary care networks. Here is my list of over 250 blogs to showcase my expertise. Here is the academic journals that I've recently been published in 2024. And here is my catalogue of Business of Healthcare podcasts, where I'm talking to a variety of health and care leaders to broaden my awareness, and my solo episodes focus on myself as a consultant and myself as a primary care network leader. And this is where I share my experience. So you see that it's very, very specific. And for the healthcare leaders looking to hire the consultant, hire the support, really think about what it is that you need. And obviously there'll be a budget, there will be a ceiling, and that's right. But don't always be guided by the cheapest price. You have had a long-term issue likely, and you want somebody with experience, and the more experienced your consultants are, the higher their rate will be, but they are worth it. And I say that as somebody that I have hired consultants. I was saying to my friend the other day, I've always had a coach every single year, and like to mix them up. And I value an external view, because sometimes I'm too close and I can't see it, or I don't want to see it. And it can be very uncomfortable. And when I do facilitation, one of my early slides is the problems of consultants. When I did my MBA, my strategy lecturer said to me, the problem with consultants is they'll steal your watch and then tell you the time, and then have the audacity to charge you. And I thought, oh God, that's a really interesting thought. But the more I do this, but if you know that there is an issue, you've got a sense on the root cause of the issue, and it's hard to fix, because in order to fix it, there needs to be some important conversation, difficult conversation, or we may need to restructure how we do things, or we might have to change a process which affects people's jobs and their roles. So sometimes you know it, but it's only when somebody comes into your organisation and reflects back what you have said, and also by the look on people's facial expressions and their demeanour, reflects back what is not being said. It's like, oh yeah, okay, we knew this. But then the next question is, okay, and now how do we move forward? So sometimes your consultants will tell you things you already know. Sometimes they won't. Sometimes they'll unearth some surprises, which is uncomfortable, which initially you might not want to accept. I always say to people, and I heard this expression, don't judge your first thought. So, when somebody asks you to do something and you initially think, no, can't do it. No, there's no budget. There's no time. I don't know what you want from me. I don't know why you're asking me. The answer is no. And then you kind of sit on it for a little bit and you think, well, maybe I could do X, or maybe I could get Valentina to help with Y, and maybe we could give it a try. And you start to work it through, you start to break it down, chunk it down, tie it to, like the purpose of the overall objective, look at your priorities, move some things around, and Bob's your uncle, it's done. But your initial thought is absolutely not. And that happens when sometimes you have a consultant come in. They may say something or they suggest something, and you'll think, no, they don't get it. And then after that session, during the session or after that session, I think, okay, I've thought it through. So don't judge your first thought, and also do not judge other people's first thoughts. And that's hard because you'll make a suggestion and they'll be like, no. They'll go through that process. The end of the process may still be no, but at least it's a bit more thought through. So it's a really reflective process, and the insights and reflections and the wins may not be immediately obvious. But if the consultant is good and they've got the experience, they will help you through this process. A good consultant will. And the analogy I use is, and I need to be careful what I say, a good consultant will deliver the brief. But the analogy that I use, like if you want your cooker fixed, and then they kind of look at your cooker, and then they kind of poke their head into the front room and go, oh, but you need to change your sofas, and you need to change your windows, and you need to do that. So they're trying to increase their billable hours. You don't want that. You want somebody to come in, be focused on the brief. They may highlight other issues, but they are focused on the brief. And you may try to pull them into other areas, but that person will say, okay, but this, you hired me initially to support issue A. Do you now want issue B? Because then that is the wider scope, or should we focus on this issue, or are they interlinked? And if they are interlinked, can we just kind of go back to basics just so we're really clear? Because they want to deliver for you. And it's so important that they deliver and they do a good job, because the referral is so valuable. If you hire me, if you hire Tara, and I come in and I'm around for 9 months, and the scope just keeps increasing, but at the end of that, at the end of the period, I can't clearly point to what I've delivered. You might say, well, it was great working with her, but she didn't deliver anything. So if your consultant keeps wanting to go back to basics and go back to the scope, they're not being awkward. They just want to make sure they do the best job for you and that they stay on task. So I think I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully there are lots of questions for you to consider if you are a healthcare leader thinking whether you need some expert help. I've given you lots of questions. Think about the criteria that you are looking for. Think about your budget. But don't always go for the cheapest. Go for the personal, go for the team that you can see that have the referral, they've got other testimonials, and you can see their expertise. And sometimes when you find somebody, it can feel very exciting and daunting. It can be like, okay, I want to do this, but I'm scared. And that's okay. That is okay. It's a good sign. And be open. Your consultant, your expert would have seen this issue multiple times, and they would have learned. After every interaction with a client, we go back and what worked well, what could be even better if, what other piece of experience can I draw on? If it's a really sticky issue, I will take that to my coach, or I might take that to somebody else, confidentially. I won't share any kind of details about the client. I'd like to kind of try this approach. What do you think? And just to make sure that, we are delivering the best job for you. All consultants will do that. So trust them. And if it's not a right fit, call it early. Trust your gut, trust your instincts, trust what you have seen, and have the conversation. It's really important you have an open dialogue with your external consultant, your external support. It's really, really important. Okay. So hopefully there's enough there for you to mull over, consider. If you have any questions, any suggestions for a topic within this podcast series, The Business of Healthcare Consulting, please do message me at admin@thcprimarycare.co.uk. I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you in the next episode.